huts that are about this wide and about this tall. Each monk has his own brass hut. He climbs in it, he sits in it, sleeps like this, eats like this, all his life. That's all they do. They worship and are in their temple. They worship and are in their hut. Now, historical writings show that the Ark of the Covenant sat on this forbidden island for 800 years in a makeshift tabernacle. Watch this. This island is Tanakirkos Island. It takes 3.5 hours in a boat one way to get to it. Have anybody ever seen Gilligan's Island? 3 hours. When you start driving across the lake and they tell you it's 3 hours and they start warning you about storms, and the storm hits, you're done. You know, and you're thinking, well, what do we do? That's what the thoughts are going through my mind. This area down here is not the island. This is marshland, and it's filled with hippos and crocodiles. The island is up here. This is the top. It's 40-foot high cliffs. These are 60-foot high cliffs. Right here. This right here is a collapsed cliffside. It's the only way up to the top. Now, we crashed into the rocks 3 times in the boat to get there. Because every time you bump it, you kind of bump, crash, and back up, and have to start again. One of the monks actually stepped into the water and grabbed the front of the boat to get us on the island. The Abba, the father, came down to meet with BUFORD. They shared the traditional Ethiopian kisses on the cheek about 4 or 5 times, and then we were welcomed to the top. Once we got to the top right here, the women were no longer allowed to go with the men, because now they were taking us to a place the women could not go. So actually Sherry and the rest of the ladies had to go to the far end of the island down here where the women could be. Now, the women that are there are only there to cook for the monks, and then they have to leave. They're not allowed to stay up there. We walked through a jungle, a very dense jungle with spiders. Kids, you'll love this. There's spiders there. When they put out their legs, are about this big. They're amazing. Matter of fact, one of the monks during one of the trips there couldn't hear, and one of the doctors took a pair of tweezers and reached into the man's ear, and they pulled out a claw, and that claw popped its legs out, and they had spiders living inside of his ear. Now, this is how these people, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to do anything. So, they're very, very, very remotely removed. We walked through the jungle. We got to this place. It was a clearing. There was a jungle on this side, a jungle on this side, a rock cliff here, and then opening through a rock archway, and a mud hut building sitting here, very old. And we're like, whoa, what is this? So and they said, we'll get to that in a little while. Let's go over here. And I started to walk through the rock archway, and they grabbed the back of my collar. And they said, no, 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 no. And the scholar says, you must remove your shoes because now you walk on holy ground. And I'm thinking, whoa, I heard that in the book of Exodus. Yeah. So we removed our shoes, and we went past a mud hut temple. We walked past that, went farther into the jungle, up the rock cliff, and guess what happened? I started getting that tingling, sick feeling again. I started sweating like a dog. One of the guys with me named Steve Inman, he said, Jim, are you all right? I said, I'm fine. And I dropped down to my knees again. And as I was sitting there, I just started pulling grass out of the ground, out of the rock. And Bob Gordon says, what are you doing? And I said, I don't know, Bob, but there's something here. And he says, you're right. He says, that rock slab is where the Ark of the Covenant rested for 800 years. And I said, instantly the thing that came to me was, if that is true, there has to be something here that would have held that ark into place. And I found in the rock, I found embedded 4 little perfectly carved feet holes, almost to the exact dimension that the Ark of the Covenant would have been for it to rest on. Bob says, hey, that's not all. I've got something else to show you. Okay? And folks, actually, that part right there is what I'm not allowed really to give you too much information on, because that's what we're writing our book on, and I've got to do a little more research on something. But I want to show you some things that happened. In 330 AD, or actually it was in 310 that King Exotic came to be a Christian. In 330 AD, the whole country of took it, and they say this is where it still remains in Aksum, Ethiopia, where his empire was today. That is until the time it is needed again. That's what they'll very clearly tell you if you ever ask them when they're going to show it. It's when it's time that it's needed again. Now, during the exploration, we had the opportunity to research the treasury of the Ark, which I shared with you. This is actually one of the walkways heading down to that area where the Ark of the Covenant, or treasury of the Ark, was. We talked with the high priest there today. His name is Naru. Now, I'm not talking about the guardian. I'm talking about the high priest of Aksum, Ethiopia. You just don't walk up to Naru and start talking to him. He's considered a very holy man. But, as you'll see, BUFORD is by himself with him right there. That's Naru. And the funny thing was, Naru came to our hotel to meet him privately with about a 6-hour meeting with BUFORD. And then he had no way to get to his home, so the ladies were heading out on a shopping adventure to the bottom where they had these baskets for sale, and Naru got in the van. I got a great picture of Naru in the van with a bunch of ladies. So it was kind of funny to see that. But we got to explore the tombs of some of the great kings. And this is dropping down into King Exana's tomb. Right here are some of the pottery shards. They would bury everything that the king would have with them in their tombs. These are some of the pottery shards of King Khalid and King Exana's tomb right here. And I took them out of the walls of their tombs. We took part in the holiest day of the year, the Timkat ceremony. Now it depends on who you ask. It's either to celebrate the baptism of Jesus, the arrival of the Ark, or when they became Christians. This is the Timkat ceremony. They carry this helmet, which they claim is just a replica of the Ark. It's nowhere near what they say it is, but it has in it Holy Scripture. They parade it from the Ark, the Church of the Ark. 100,000 people gather for this. You can see these men are dressed in traditional Levite holy robes. They carry this Ark, playing trumpets, sounding cisterns, pounding huge drums, and they celebrate from the eve of Timkat through the night from the makeshift tabernacle into the next day in prayer and outside the area dancing and celebrating. And then the next day they travel from the bathing pool of the Queen of Sheba to the middle of Aksum to a huge, huge sycamore tree, and that's where they do the final ceremony and then take this item and all the ceremonial Levite robes back to the Ark Church. From our tops of the cliffs of Lake County, we had such a great opportunity. I got to kneel where the Ark rested in this place. Look at this. This is where those 4 holes were. This is the slab. Now you're talking a rock cliff. Look how flat this is where they made this here. There's a hole here, 18 inches or 36 inches this way. Another one. There's one 18 inches up here and another one down here. This was actually a mummy that was preserved, an Egyptian mummy that came to this area to find the Ark of the Covenant a couple thousand years ago, or a couple hundred years ago. Right here, I got that hold in my hands. Folks, remember I told you about the mud building before we went through the gateway? They went and the Abba had pulled these ancient keys, went to this door. You got a mud hut, has a door this thick, wooden door, and it's that tall with ancient locks on it. He unlocks those locks, and he says inside this building, or what's left, that came here with the Ark of the Covenant from Solomon's temple. One of those things was the breastplate that the high priest would have worn. He says, they have no metal on this island, folks. No metal. This stuff is all made of bronze. This right here went down over the high priest, and the 12 stones of Israel were on front of this, on the material, on the front of his breastplate. They claim that's the breastplate that was from the time of Moses to the time that the Ark was brought here. Then we got to see the sacrificial bronze bowl that they would put the blood in. It's called a gomer. That's it right there. We got to investigate the tabernacle, the pole sockets that the tabernacle rested in. BUFORD said if the tabernacle was here, it had to be in sockets. Otherwise, it'd blow right off the top. So boom, he finds all around here, 13 and a half feet, perfectly matches the Bible, pole sockets all the way around that entire top of that cliff on Panicure Island. Now,